Next up, we have Miss Judith Lawrence, founder and owner of the Lawrence Institute for Notaries, who will share her views on the topic, providing international documentation services, a unique way for law and financial service firms to serve their clients. She is also a faculty member and the instructor for the National Business Builders and Notary Stars, also the recipient of the very first honorary Master Notary of 2021. Judith is also the author of Make Your Business Our Business, published in 2018, and the Apostille Agent's Survival Guide. Please put your hands together for Judith.
Thanks for having me, and let's get started. So you get a call this morning and your client says, I need help. I need international documentation and I don't know exactly what to do. And what do? Do you have the resources and the expertise to do this? And not saying, let me say what Paul Criscola told me last night. When he was a tax attorney, clients would come to talk to him, but they didn't read the tax code. And I'm sure if there are patent lawyers out here, we go to them because patent is their expertise. And so for us, international documents is our expertise. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, how we might be able to help you. You do not want to lose a client because you're unable to tell them and they don't know themselves. So a client inherits several $1 million from a rich uncle in Bulgaria. And the client doesn't want to go to Bulgaria and spend 3 months there trying to figure it all out. The trick is you hire co-counsel, of course, in Bulgaria, but he or she says, we need documentation. We need a copy of your passport and a copy of your marriage license and a copy of your birth certificate. And if you have your uncle's power of attorney and titles to the car and all this other stuff, if you can get us all that, we can get you your $40 million. And the client, of course, as we all in this room know, wants it done immediately, quickly, and would like to have it done yesterday. So some of the documents that they might ask for in a case like that would be a last will and testament, any related business agreements, a power of attorney, trust agreement, deeds, bank accounts, and as the gentleman up here was speaking about earlier, identity documents, because this attorney in Bulgaria cannot do anything or convince any bank to give them anything unless they know who they're giving it to. So how did our firm fix this? What do we do? Okay, well, we have a staff all across the United States, and we are familiar with all of the do's and don'ts and what these countries need and will or will not accept. So it's called Apostille VIP. I'm going to tell you a little more about it in a little bit, but we are the experts. I'm Judy Lawrence. I head Apostille VIP. I've been doing the business for about 10 years, and we can get a call from you and you tell us, I have 10 documents, I've got to have them, I don't know how to do it, and we know how to do it, and we can help you. So I want to share a little story with you. This really happened to me. It was a beautiful summer Sunday afternoon, and I got a call from a major law firm in Philadelphia, and they asked me if I could come over right away. And before you say anything, I had no staff back then, so of course I said yes, but I do have a staff now, and I would say yes anyway, because I work 7 days a week. So I go over, and they escort me up to a conference room, and around the table are 20 lawyers, and they give me my instructions. And my instructions are that I have to notarize a bunch of documents, and in the morning, this is what they tell me, that I have to walk them over to the courthouse, and I have to get them legalized or apostilled, because Joe, one of the partners, has to be on a plane to go to Belgium that afternoon and close $1 million deal. So I tell them, the only problem is these documents don't get apostilled in a courthouse in Philadelphia or anywhere else. They always have to go to the Secretary of State. And in our case, the Secretary of State is 2 hours up and 2 hours back. So it's 4 hours of travel time. And they looked at me and said, you probably don't know what you're talking about. So what did they do? I'm sure you can all guess. They Googled it. They went to Mr. Google and they Googled it, and then they turned around to me and said, you know, you're right. So I fixed it. And how did I fix it? I hired a driver, got a notary to go with the driver. They went up to Harrisburg. They were there when the doors opened. They left Philadelphia at 6 a.m. Doors opened at 8:30 a.m. They were first in line. They got the job done. They got back in the car. They met Joe at the airport. Joe got the documents. Joe got on the plane. Joe got to Belgium in time to save his $1 million deal. But I'm going to tell you, I'm here to tell you, that is the wrong way to do it. That's what I meant when I said you've got to have something or someone to guide you, because it wouldn't have always worked. We were just lucky in that case. So before I go any further, in case any of you are sitting there saying, what is she talking about? What does the word apostille mean? What is legalization? What is all this? An apostille is a cover that gets attached to a document, and it allows that document to be used in a foreign country. It must be authenticated by the Secretary of State where the document originated. So I was born in Pennsylvania, and even though I'm in Las Vegas today, if I had to have my document apostilled, it would have to be done in Pennsylvania. Now here comes the complicated part. Back in 1961, there was something called the Hague Convention, and when the Hague Convention happened, a bunch of countries joined the Hague, and a bunch of countries said, nope, not joining. And this always changes. Some countries join, and then they drop out. It always changes. And so this is where the business becomes a little bit complicated, because you have to know that. And you have to know where your document is going, what kind of country is it, because there are different steps that need to be taken in the event of Hague versus non-Hague. You're all more than welcome to come to my class. I teach this all the time, but I know you don't want to learn all about that today, so I'm going to skip over, and I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you in this audience spent eons of time when you could have been creating billable hours or even invoicing clients to help your clients get documents authenticated so they could be used abroad? You look for location, you look for convenience, you look for speed, you look for accuracy, and you seek excellent reviews. So while you're looking, you want the review that says, oh my God, this person is just everything and anything. But how do you know for sure who you're getting on the internet? None of us do. You know, it looks good. I'm a 5-star company. It looks good. So now I'm going to ask you another question. Would you rather spend a little bit of money to be absolutely certain that your client, when you need these services, that your client will have an insurance policy, so to speak, which will save them time, money, and avoid stress? And I have to tell you, you'll hear a little bit about me later on, but I have to tell you that most of my adult life, until 10 years ago, I worked for a law firm in a lot of different capacities. I was a secretary, I was a paralegal, and I was an office administrator. And I am well aware of client retention. And I am a big advocate of we have to do everything we can to keep a client. When you're in business, you have to do everything you can to keep that person coming back to you. And in 2022, I'm going to just say people are a little bit non-forgiving. So you really have to have all your ducks in line and make sure that all of this is done properly so that you get the proper results. So now I'm going to turn it around and you ask, this seems really easy. I mean, it doesn't sound like it's very complicated. Why can't we just do it ourselves? Why do we need you? And we answer, because every country has their own specific governing laws, and the laws change every day. So our team keeps track of all of that. We know, for example, in September, Saudi Arabia joined The Hague, but we weren't allowed to treat Saudi Arabia as a Hague member until December 7th. December 7th came, and people who didn't know were still sending their documents for Saudi Arabia as a non-Hague country, and it's now a Hague country. So they may sound small to you, these details may sound small to you, but Saudi Arabia can now be done in 4 days rather than 9 weeks. And so it's just a question of getting a team in place that really can help you understand exactly how to do all this. So I got together some statistics for you, and I like to share them with you. A high percentage of businesses now have international offices. A lot of clients are opening up subsidiary offices in India, in Hong Kong, in China, in different places. And so these businesses do require a certain amount of international documents and a certain amount of being able to provide them. FBI background checks, it's anticipated that over 39.5 billion, 39.6 million background checks were performed in 2020. Background checks always have to be legalized. And I said 39.6 million, and that's a lot of background checks, and that is a lot of international documents. Patents, I couldn't get real good information, I think because of the pandemic. I couldn't get real good information, but I did get that 307,759 patents were issued back in 2018. And again, for you patent attorneys out there, that's a lot of international documents that I'm sure you're sending back and forth. Adoptions, there were 110,000 children adopted in the United States 2 years ago. Again, I apologize, but that was the best information we could get you. Destination weddings, are you ready? The wedding market is expected to grow from 15.89 billion in 2021 to 21.43 billion in 2022. Now, for the average destination wedding, you need two apostilles. So add that up, it's about 600,000. I mean, I didn't do 600,000 apostilles last year, I'm going to confess. But it's out there, and it's what you guys need to know. So when a client calls you and says, you know, what do I do? You know. And I'm going to give you all that answer really soon, couple minutes. There are a number of documents that people need apostille that they probably would not pay a law firm to do for them because they probably wouldn't. But I wanted to give you a list. So a client might call you and say, hey, you know, where do I get my birth certificate legalized? Where do I get my marriage certificate done? And there's a whole list here. Big deal is a consent to travel, because the world is now finally catching up and saying, if mom and dad have kids and only mom is taking the kids to Portugal, then dad has to sign this paper saying, I know where my children are going to be. I know what flight they're going to be on, and I know what airport they're leaving at, and I know when they're coming back. And this is a really good thing. So there's a whole bunch of documents, and it's a good idea for you to just know when they call, where can you send them so that this can get done. So I want to go back to Joe's law firm for a minute, and I'm going to tell you how it could have been different. Because as I told you, I got lucky. I was able to make it happen, and I was paid a lot of money to make that happen and to save that $1 million deal. But if they had known about Apostille VIP, they wouldn't have had to worry, because with a click and a call, we would have done it and we would have taken care of it. Joe called me on Sunday. It would have probably been done by Wednesday or Thursday, and they wouldn't have needed a meeting on a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and they wouldn't have needed to spend all the money that they paid me in order to get this done. So I'm wanting to tell you, I've been mentioning Apostille VIP, and I want to tell you what it is. It's a service. And when you're a member and a priority member, we talk to you before we talk to anyone. And whether that's 3 o'clock in the morning or whether that's on a Sunday, it doesn't matter. Our staff is available all the time. And as I said to you, we have people in every state and that know all the rules of all these countries. I think right now, and I might be wrong about this by a little bit, I think there's 102 Hague countries, and I think that there's around 97 non-Hague countries. And I am being funny when I say this, but some of the countries don't know what the countries are doing. So it can get to be a complicated kind of thing. So joining our service and being a part of my team enables you to click or call, and you've got me and your team to help you through whatever it is you need, so that we go back to helping a client and that all good client retention. We do everything on an expedited basis. And where I am, and I have a business that's all we do, everything's done on an expedited basis. Your transactions will be on a priority basis, and you have access to us 24/7. So you no longer have to worry, who am I going to find on the internet? And is that person going to do the right thing? And how's it going to happen? And what's going to happen? Because you no longer have to even think about that. So Ed Gelb, who developed Apostille VIP with me, he's a fantastic person, Harvard grad, right? And brings to the table a big expertise in digital marketing and can handle lots of that kind of stuff for you. And Ed is here today. And Ed and I would like you to stop by our booth and we can answer any questions you might have. We are here for conversation, and we are here for registration. And we have a raffle going on, and you might want to win some good stuff. So I'm going to skip these bios because they just make me crazy. If you want to know anything about me, come to my booth. I'll tell you my whole story. I could tell it to you in 2 minutes. I told you I was a legal secretary, a paralegal, and an office administrator. And back in 2008, when everybody was laying off everybody, they laid off me. And I did not know that in the ensuing 10 years, I have now written 2 books. I have 3 businesses. I do work 7 days a week, it's true. And one of the books that I wrote is called the Apostille Agent Survival Guide. And it's a handbook, it's a reference book, and it tells you what you need to know about this business. I ordered lots of books. They were supposed to be here. FedEx didn't make it, okay? Okay, sorry about that. But if you stop by the booth and just give us your name and give us your email, we will make sure that you get a book, and give us your credit card, and we will make sure that you get a book as soon as we get home. So I think that was my last slide, and this is my chance to ask you what kind of questions you might have about international documentation and what kind of service I didn't mention that you think you might be interested in. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody? I see a question over here. Hi. I took your spot.
Yes, you did. Thank you. So, with filing these documents in other countries, are most of the countries accepting documents in English, or do you have to also provide
That's
translations?
a great question. There are times when when they require translation. There's no set rule. Some countries require translation. I will tell you that, for example, Colombia requires translation and will only accept it on the same page, English over here, Spanish or whatever language over here. That's just Colombia. Not a lot of countries want that. What we do is we ask you, and we have a translator that can usually get this done within a day or two, and then they go for apostille or legalization. And yeah, that's a great question, and yes, we can provide that service.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm looking for hands. The lights are so bright I can't see. So if you have a question, let me know. Jane? Can you go over to the microphone?
Okay, so you're based in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Okay, but you can do all this internationally.
Yes.
Yeah, and you deal with the Secretary of State
Yes.
in Pennsylvania. What about other states? What happens in California and Texas and all that?
Also, a great question. We have we have people in every state, and I have a service. It's called Apostille Direct USA, and I have couriers. So if I need something done this afternoon in Louisiana, I can call my Louisiana courier, and I can get that job done just as fast as I can get it done in Pennsylvania. So it's a service that we provide all over. Now, I will tell you that if it's a non-Hague country, these documents are taking a longer period of time. The U.S. Department of State is terribly backed up. And so we can do it as quick for you as they can do it for us. But you'll get it faster with us than you'll get without us. And it's I don't know if you're familiar with concierge medicine, but it's kind of the same concept. You have a person that you can call on. Somebody said last night, I can't remember who it was. So in other words, we have you on speed dial, and that's what it is. You have a number, a click, a call, and we're there, and we can help. Anybody else? Again, that light is so bright over there, I can barely see. But if you don't have any other questions, I would really like it oh, hello. Hi.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for an awesome
Sure.
presentation. I'm a lawyer from Nigeria.
We talked yesterday.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
I wanted to find out how easily it would be to get your reach. Does it get to Nigeria? Are we able to partner to execute some of these services? And if we also need to use your service outside of Nigeria, can we do that for Apostille?
Well, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking about getting documents over to Nigeria.
Yes, and also being able to execute some of this international documentary executions from the Nigerian bit. Do you have partners already?
Okay.
Are you looking to get into that market? What are the considerations that you have in mind?
Well, I want to answer, I think, what your questions are. Stay here because I don't know that I got them all.
Okay.
The first question is about executing them in Nigeria and in South Africa. And we have a remote notarization department.
Okay.
So the person doesn't have to be here as long as they have valid ID.
Okay.
We can notarize these documents remotely, and then they can get apostille.
Okay.
So we take care of that too. We have a department, and we, as I always like to tell people, your client can be in his or her own home. They can be out on their boat. It doesn't matter. As long as they have a computer and valid ID, we can get it done.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Then
you're
the second
welcome.
part is
Go ahead.
For practice in Nigeria. So there are certain documents that may have to be notarized or executed from Nigeria for international clients. Now, I don't know if those are jurisdictions or areas that your reach gets to. So say, for example, I have a client in Houston, for example, that wants to get some things done in Nigeria.
Right.
Now, the typical practice would be to retain a lawyer in Lagos or in Abuja in Nigeria, right?
If I understand your question, so what we would do is we would find out how to get this done for you.
Okay.
And a lot of that depends on the ID that your client has.
Okay.
Some people in Nigeria have retained a US passport, let's say,
Okay.
and that's much easier. But we can get it done the other way too. It just may take a little
Bit of time.
pivoting.
Okay.
I have a very close association with a platform called Cyberize It.
Okay.
I'm very proud of the owner of Cyberize It is a woman. She developed and built the platform herself, and it is a wonderful platform. And I will work with them, with you.
Okay.
And there's always a way around it. We just maybe not know that way right this minute.
Right.
But
Okay.
talk to me outside.
Very well.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anybody have any questions? I would be very happy to see all of you at our booth. Leave your business card because we're going to have a raffle tomorrow, and we're going to raffle off some interesting things. And I guess if that's it, then I'm going to say thank you to 2.0 for having me here and for my leadership award. And I must say that it's been a great experience, wonderful people, and I'm very honored to be here. So thank you.